Okay, welcome to the first ever episode of the Proven Loop podcast with myself, Gary J. Allman. I'm trying something different today. I've got one of my good friends here with me, Jake, live and direct from Hong Kong, I believe.
Yes,
Where
sir.
are you at right now? Yeah. So I am looking to do a series of podcasts with close friends and ex-clients of mine and kind of see where they're at in their journey, um, especially when it comes to faith and things like self-improvement. And Jake, I know you're all about that, my friend. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're working on right now, what your biggest lesson has been recently.
Mm. Alrighty. So to introduce myself, my name is Jake Tam, or known as Jake YuJune on YouTube. I'm 18 years old. Yeah, and I make Christian content to sum it up on YouTube where I pray for people, I speak what's on my heart, and currently going into year one of university in Australia because that's where I feel like I'm being called. Honestly, to be transparent with everyone listening to this, I have no idea what I'm doing. And if there's one thing that I've learned in the last year, 2025, it's that I don't know anything about anything. There are so many answers I don't have, many questions that I don't even have. But my journey with God, and if there's anything I've learned in the last short 18 years of my life, it's that the fun of life is the wonder of it. And to not have all the answers right where you are doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, right? And yeah, to welcome wonder takes courage, and it is a skill. And that's a skill I've been building. And yeah, very much at the start of my journey. And so is Gary, even though he might not say it, he would say he's farther along or whatever he would say. But honestly, this is just the beginning for both of us. Yeah, and whatever season that you are in, God has a plan for. You might not know where you're headed or what you're doing currently, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. And there isn't a one right answer for honestly anything, right? And that's life. And that's why we
Absolutely.
love it. Yeah.
It's funny how
So,
you say that we're both at the start because I'm twice your age, which is interesting, man. But that's our perspective. You know, you've come into entrepreneurship in a completely different generation to the generation that
mm,
I didn't know the internet growing up. I didn't know social media, and I'm going to sound really old now, but I discovered it in the sort of the mid 2010s. Never really considered it a business, and you were born in what 2000 and 2007.
seven. Yeah,
Yeah. So
brother.
I was 18 in that year, bro. So do you know what I mean? So yeah, I love that perspective, and it's why I wanted to get Jake onto this podcast and do it for episode one, is because we have such a different perspective and experience on life around faith, around self improvement, self development, whatever you want to call it. You guys will have seen what I've been kind of talking about around the concept of the proving loop and trying to prove your self worth to yourself and everything else. And faith has been a part of that for me. I forced myself into that loop and then I came out of it and I rediscovered my faith. Jake, I know that's been a huge point of contention for you and kind of like feeling you a little bit lost sometimes. And then you've gone back to God and you've rediscovered things and you've sort of had breakthroughs. So just tell me a little bit about some of those breakthroughs that you've had recently.
Yeah, it's so funny how Gary's been working on this project, talking about the proving point. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
The proving
And
loop, yeah.
proving
Yeah.
loop. Yeah. How so many of us just naturally get into this like vicious cycle of trying to prove ourselves not only to others, but to ourselves. And something that I've honestly been falling into the trap of recently is trying to improve not just my grades or my finances or where I'm headed, but specifically, like, as a young guy getting into the gym, obsessing about diet, health, physique, and all of these things, just trying to prove to yourself, like, I am good enough because I look this way and I am building muscle and I'm making progress and I'm doing all these things. And something that I've learned just recently, um, or not learned, but experienced to be able to solidify that lesson in myself is that if you don't accept or if you don't love yourself right now for who you are as you are, you never will. Now, there's a difference between loving yourself and being satisfied and content with yourself. And learning to differentiate those two things is huge because if you attach your identity to the results you're getting from whatever your work you're doing, then you're just going to live life on this constant roller coaster. And that isn't a very anti fragile mentality, right? You have one downturn in your business, you break because you see yourself differently. But if you see yourself as this person who you know your worth for who you are because you've learned to accept yourself um, as you are, not for who you're becoming, but as you are, then no matter what happens, um, your identity is steady. Like you're solid, you're grounded, regardless of the result. And in the long run, that actually makes you more bulletproof to whatever hits you, and you get a more steady return on investment for anything you're doing. Um, and no one can tell you how to do that. No one can make you do that. There isn't a program or any special thing you can pay for. Accepting yourself is something that, lock your door, sit in your room, pull out a journal, piece of paper, and just sit with yourself. And don't be afraid of that time with yourself. And you'll find that the greatest breakthroughs come through boring moments in your life of solitude that we often try so hard to run from.
That's a
Yeah.
great perspective. I think a lot of people do fear time with themselves, time with their own mind. It's why so many people are so addicted to the dopamine, and so many people are addicted to chasing something, because it gives them a sense of meaning, and it almost turns their brain off to who they truly are, because then they're looking to put an attachment on the outcome. And this is the whole concept of what I went through with the proving loop. It was when I have this, when I have this, when I have this. It was always this unachievable milestone of, when I get to 100K a year income, I'll be happy. When I get to become a father, I'll be happy. And of course, I'm happy as a dad of two. However, there's always the next thing, and that's the proving loop. It's like proving to myself and my subconscious, even if I don't intentionally want to do it, that this is the thing that's going to make me feel worthy of living an existence and giving meaning to my life. And that's why I got pulled back into faith, because I didn't have meaning. I didn't have anything outside of business and my family, really. And something something has to come before that. Something has to be there for me to put everything in perspective and put something at the center of my life, rather than just my day-to-day monotony. And goals and things and ambitions are great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with ambition, but when you make them your identity, as I had made the mistake of doing, and you make the excuse that I am providing for my family in order to, wrap it up, shall we say, and cope with it, and say I'm pursuing 1 million in income because I'm providing for my family. That's
Yeah.
fear wrapped up as ambition, because you are
Yeah.
fearful of, not being worthy. So you're just pushing things harder in that direction, and then you end up going further away from the thing that actually keeps you grounded and keeps you sane, which can be faith, it can be mindfulness, like you said, it can be just sitting with your own thoughts and sort of figuring things out.
Yeah. Yeah. There is always more. There's always more to be done, more to be achieved, more to do, or to be able to say you've done. And at the end of the day, when life is short, like I don't need to get to 70 years old to be able to say that. Like I'm already a quarter way through my life if I don't die tomorrow, God forbid. Like life is short. And after all that toil and hard work, like you need to be honest with yourself. Like what really is it all for? What are you doing all of this for? Because I feel like a lot of people just it's from unchecked insecurity. Um, and it's
Yes.
from honestly, you're searching for purpose, meaning, and love that you could have right now, but you're not willing to really accept from yourself. It's almost like you set yourself a condition that you're not willing to be satisfied. And like social media will push like, oh, hustle culture. You're not meant to be satisfied. You're never meant to be satisfied. And all of these things. And it feels good in the moment to be able to push yourself, to be able to work
Mm.
hard, wake up at 4 a.m., do all these things. The reality is at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, like, what is it really all for? Are you working hard just to say you work hard? Like, I really fell into that. Are you working hard just to feel good? It's almost like a drug. It's almost like a coping mechanism that you use to run from your problems. Like, I don't have a family, but I could use that, like you. I could use that, like, oh, I'm providing for my family. I'm providing for my family. Like, is that what your family really wants? Or do they just want your time or attention? Like, what is
Mm.
this really for? Right. And
That's the
I
thing
feel like a
that
lot of
something.
people
That's
are,
the thing that.
yeah,
Sorry, Jake. Go on. Go on.
I feel like a lot of people are trying to chase a purpose that is bigger than themselves, but they
Yeah.
just can't get over that like hunch. Yeah, keep going.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. There was a slight delay there, so apologies. I thought you'd finished, but yeah, the trap that I fell into, and this was only a couple of years ago. coming off the back of my most successful year in business. And this has kind of led me down the path of what I'm doing now. And combined with getting back to my faith and sort of figuring things out from there was wanting to provide for my kids and say that, oh, I'm providing for my family. But you're only really providing in a financial sense according to your own perception at that particular time. And I hear a lot of guys say this, and it's great providing for your family and giving them financial security, but your young kids only want your presence. They don't care about money. They don't even know what money is. They have no concept. They just know you. They see you and they go, that's my dad. And that's what they want. They want your time. And so does your wife. No, your wife obviously wants financial security and safety, but she also wants you to be there for her and help with, the relationship and life and balancing things like that. And I'm not saying I completely disregarded that aspect, but I know a lot of guys that do, and it is work, work. And like you say, Jake, it's a case of running from your problems because you put more hours in order to cope with what you're actually having to face in reality, which is something that you are fearful of and something that you are afraid of. So you just escape it and you numb yourself with work and you use that as a crutch to say, oh, if I keep working harder, I can escape these problems. But you're then not addressing the core issues. You're just trying to master them and trying to cope with them. And as I said earlier, that is fear wrapped up as ambition. And that is something that a lot of people don't want to admit, which is why I don't like people that say, you need to work harder. Yeah, but working harder is relative to the individual, right? Your working harder is completely different to my working harder because I have a family and to provide for. No disrespect to you, but you can do a lot more hours in your day on paper than I can, right? We have different responsibilities. So just saying a blanket statement of just saying someone you need to work harder, it's like, yeah, but in what capacity? What capacity do I need to work harder in this lane or in this lane or in this lane or all three? Or do I need to just focus on one thing? Because people will see that message online, and that's when they don't think they're doing enough, especially guys your age who are fresh out of the box and they're looking for a career and they all want to be entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship has become the new 9 to 5 from my perspective. And I see it all the time. It's like the 9 to 5 has become demonized by the next generation. And to a point, my generation, my millennial generation as well, have gone, oh, I don't want a corporate career anymore. I want to do my own thing. I want to be self-employed. And everyone thinks it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. It's brutal. It's extremely hard. It's the hardest path that you can probably choose for a career. You're literally taking an idea out of your head and trying to bring it to life. And no one cares. No one cares at the start because it's not there. It's not tangible. It's not real. And when you have a job, people can see that you have a career because you go to work every day, you dress a certain way, you speak to same people every day. So people know it's real, but entrepreneurship is not real. You're just trying to do something and trying to be somebody. And that is what you were saying, Jake, about finding purpose and meaning. And it can become extremely nauseating for a lot of people because they go round and round trying to attach their life to something and try and find their place in the world, and it can become this relentless depressing cycle if you're not careful. And I know that there are people out there that are your age that are going through it right now. So what would you say to people that are listening to this right now, having your perspective on your own purpose and being so close to God in your faith and everything that you've got going on right now? What would your advice be?
For a long time, well, as long as I can remember, even back to 7, 8 years old, I remember wanting to dedicate my life to something, some kind of greater mission or purpose or ambition, which is crazy to think about. Like, I remember when I was 7, I asked my mom, like, what's the point of all this? Like, what's the point of life? And she's like, I don't know what to tell you. You're 7. It's a funny story she tells me. Um, and at first, like when I was 10, I wanted to be like, oh, I'll dedicate myself to the craft of professional gaming. And I went into that and I trained hard. And then when I was in my teen years, I dedicated my life to sports and wanting to become a pro basketball player. And over time, purpose, I realized like it works kind of like an onion. You know how onions have so many different layers, right? And this is from The Way of the Superior Man, if you've read it. I know you've read it. And so initially, the top layer, right? You peel it back. Let's say for me, this was like, oh, getting good grades in school, for example. And the process of peeling back a purpose layer of your life currently transforms you. It reforms you into a new person through all the trials, the ups and downs of going through achieving that goal. You become a new person. And by the time you're done with that goal, or even just like the process of achieving that goal, you might find that all of a sudden that goal starts to feel a little more childish. It starts to feel a little more fickle, almost like it's vanity at this point. I remember when basketball, all I wanted to do since I was 10, 11 was to play pro basketball. And I was genuinely on the path to play professionally in Hong Kong. And all of a sudden, it started to feel childish. I was like, Jake, the world doesn't need another basketball player. The world needs someone to fix things, to sacrifice for things. Like, and I started to question all these things. And I knew, like, okay, my purpose there is almost up. And I'm not the same person I was when I started playing this sport and training hard, dedicating my life to it. What am I going to dedicate my life to next? What is the purpose of this next layer? And you find that as you keep peeling back these layers, you continue, graduate uni, become a father, raise a family, whatever it is. Um, that's kind of where you're at. And you can't skip these layers. That's the thing. Like everyone my age is trying to find, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? I'm going to find it. I'm going to dedicate to it so I can get ahead of the rest of the competition. It's always, how can I get these results as fast as friggin' possible? And to cut ahead of the competition. But I realized if I had tried to skip through these layers, I would have skipped the character development and I wouldn't be who I am today. Right? It's always trying to be achieving results, trying to get as far ahead as everyone else as possible, and not trying to approach it from the standpoint of who do I want to become. It's always what do I want to attain, what I want to have, what do I want other people to see that I have, instead of who am I becoming for the people that I care about. And who are these people? Who do I want to serve? It's always about like, who do I want to be served by instead of
Yeah.
who I want to serve. Um, Another big thing I learned this year is a lot of times we don't feel loved because we don't love enough. We don't feel loved because we don't love enough. You really reap what you sow. A lot of entrepreneurs, regardless of what you're doing, corporate job, you work so hard to feel like you deserve this love. You want to provide for your family or tell yourself you're providing for your family to feel like you deserve some kind of affection or love. But really, like, if you want like to feel loved, look at who you can serve. Look at the person right in front of you, and you'll find that somehow things just flow back to you. And it's by serving others when you're tired that you somehow gain more energy. It's about serving others when
Mm.
you don't feel like it, that somehow that builds you up as well. I don't know how to explain it, but from everyone I've talked to at any age, this is consistent. Um, and just the final thing I'll say is that everyone wants to feel special, right? Everyone wants to create their own path. And right now, social media for the last few years has been preaching like, if you get a 9 to 5, you're normal. You're just like everyone else. You see how it's not an attack on like this will be able to provide for your family or whatever. Um, a lot of people just get into entrepreneurship because they want to feel special. They want to feel
Mm.
like they're not average. It's an attack on your identity first. It was for me. Um, and that came before
Yeah.
any fear, especially for this younger generation. It's not like everyone is from the slums. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because that's what's cool nowadays. Um, but being cool is not a substitute for purpose. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. It goes back to a status game, and the comparison and the reckless disregard for your own mental well-being because you constantly compare yourself when you're in a state of lack, because I don't have this, I don't have that yet. It's what I was saying earlier. It's like when I get to X level, I'll be happy. When I earn this, I'll be happy. When I wear this watch, I'll be happy. Right. So, we all have those things, and there's nothing wrong with wanting those things, but you have to understand the collateral damage that you can experience by pursuing those things mindlessly and going after the watch, going after the car. You're like, well, what position is that going to put me in? And what am I going to learn from having that mentality of just materialism and just wanting stuff? And like you said, who can serve me rather than who can I serve? Because that's the trap you fall into. It's like, who can serve me to get what I want, rather than who can I serve to get what I want. The best people that I know in business have always said, if you just provide value to people and you just make sure that your product and your offer is killer and it is wanted by the market, everything else will come after that is a byproduct. The mistake that I have made, and I've learned this the hard way, is going for the top people. And I've been lucky enough to work with some people who are at the top, 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs, and people like Hamza, obviously, where you and I, connected back in the day. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then I got into the trap of thinking, well, how can I push this harder? How can I go further? And that was a case of, right, I need more people to serve me now and give me the money rather than how can I get out into the world and serve more of these guys. And if they buy from me, fantastic, right? And if they don't, maybe I've got a connection there, so on and so forth. So I have been in that spot, and I've towed that line, and I've danced on it, and I've fallen off of it, and I've got back on it, and then I've kind of completely changed my path and gone, this is what I want to do now. This is who I want to serve, and that's where everything that I've mentioned around what I'm doing now has come from, because I've had those different perspectives, and faith has been a big part of that. So when you were speaking a minute ago about purpose and people pursuing what they believe to be a purpose, what would you say to someone who is in a state of fear, not wanting to try those things and not wanting to peel back those layers in terms of life experience and only looking for the thing that they want to do for the rest of their life? Because that's why people waste time, is because they're fearful of getting attached to one thing.
I think if you approach this from the perspective of what, regardless of whatever you pursue, if you're good enough at it, the money is going to come. The status, maybe, whatever it may be, honestly, like you'll be able to provide for yourself and your family if you're good enough at what you do. And the end result, you could say, let's say the end results, because for the most part, it is the same if you're great at what you do, regardless of whether you do entrepreneurship or a corporate job, right? There is money, there is a certain level of status and stability, but the pathway and the process and the problems that you face are all different. And I ask the question rather than, um, am I willing to commit to one thing for the rest of my life? Start with a smaller question. Like, if you're really looking for that, look instead at what problem, if I could solve, what would it be in this world? Like, if I could really take a look at this world right now, and it may not be in my means to solve it right away or right now, but if there's a problem that really tugs at my heart and really convicts me, what would that be? What would I be willing to suffer for? And I feel like instead of asking yourself, what do I want? Asking yourself, what are you willing to suffer for and sacrifice for, is a much more powerful question. Because at the end of it, whatever you pursue, suffering is at the end of it. Like, you're gonna have to go
Mm.
through storms. You're going to, like, if you're a YouTuber, you'll have to maybe record an hour-long video and the audio broke down and you can't you can't upload it. If you're an entrepreneur, you might be like, clients are being, you know how it is sometimes, clients want a
Yeah,
refund,
man.
whatever, and you got them great results. Everything has its own problem. On a bigger scale, like if you want to solve climate change and help with that, like there are problems at the end of everything, in the middle of everything, at the start of everything. Yeah, ask yourself, what are you willing to suffer for? What problems are you willing to face and overcome? um, and a second question I would ask is, who do you want to become in the process? Like, no one ever asked that question. Who do you want to become in the process? Because when you're on your deathbed, we're all going to get there one day. When you're on your deathbed, you're not looking back at, like, most people, okay, aren't looking back at everything that, um, I need to be careful of the way I phrase this. Most people don't regret the things that they've achieved. They regret the things that they didn't do, or the problems that they weren't willing to sacrifice to solve, or the people
Mm.
that they weren't willing to spend time with or be there for when they needed them most. Right.
Mm.
Shoot, I was just talking to someone who worked in med. and he talked to like a lot of people, hundreds of people with their last words. And he studied that and he journaled it and wrote it down. And one thing that I will always remember, I don't remember all the details, but he told me most people's last words or their regrets are not in what they did, but rather in what they didn't do, in what they were too afraid to do, in what they were too afraid to even try or step into and see where that took them. And that'll stick with me because if your fear has killed more dreams than failure ever could, right? There's a young, scrappy kid out there who's willing to risk it all with the means that you have, wishing that they had the means that you had to pursue this dream that you have. Um, and it just brings perspective. Like, not everyone is blessed enough to try these things, you know, and to take
Yeah,
these
man.
risks that you can take with the time that you have. There are people who
Yeah.
died last night who had plans for today. There are people who will die today who have plans for tomorrow. Life is short. Um, And if you're too afraid to see where something will go because you want stability and monotony, that's on you. But at the end of our lives, at the end of the day, like, really, that's a decision you have to face. And I can't make that decision for you. But with that perspective, make that decision carefully.
Love it, man. I love it. How many 18-year-olds do you guys know listening to this that can articulate like that, and share that perspective at such a young age? I know I couldn't when I was 18. I was stupid and naive. But I agree with everything you just said, and what you said about fear killing dreams. I think people are so afraid of how other people will perceive them if they get a job and if they do something that isn't cool and isn't entrepreneurship. And what is worse than that is time passing you by and you haven't tried anything at all. So you haven't learned anything, you haven't figured things out. And if you are unsure, you need to just do the bare minimum, in my opinion. From my perspective, you need to just work in some capacity, speak to people, learn skills, figure something out. There is no shame in getting a 9 to 5 job, even though everybody on the internet will tell you it's, you're a brokey and it's stupid and everything else. But we collectively, as a society now on the internet, we see success all the time, and anything outside of that image is deemed to be failure. And we are constantly fed that narrative. We are constantly fed that you have to be at a certain level. You have to be able to homeschool your kids if you're, my age, for example, and you have to be able to afford to drive a Porsche and blah blah blah, and you travel 4 times a year and go on holiday and all of these things. Those things are awesome, right? But you ain't going to get there. If you really want that life, you're not going to get there unless you actually move forward in some capacity and learn. And that starts in the bottom level. And I think it's very important to put those things into perspective and realize that you can't suddenly just jump up to level 10 when you haven't even earned the right to be at level 1 yet. Level 10 is what you want in life. That's like the thing, right? I've said this to people before. Most people will operate around level 1 or 2 for the entirety of their lives. And then they'll be on their deathbed and they'll regret not getting the the higher levels, and experiencing those things because they were too fearful to do so. But also they confuse themselves because they don't know which direction to take. Just learn what you're good at, get a job in that vicinity if you have no other option, and learn a skill. So whether you are extremely good creatively, get a job in a creative profession. It could be anything. It can be an internship in architecture. It can be internship for Canva or someone like that, and figure something out, learn a skill, and doors will start to open. Things will start to come to you because you are moving through life. You're not staying still. And when you move through life and you go on a journey, it may not be what you want to do. As Jake was saying, it may be some form of suffering or you kind of hate the job and you go, oh, this is awful. But you are learning things from it that you can then use later in life. That's exactly what happened to me. I've shared that on my story before. And I wouldn't be in a position I'm in now if I hadn't gone down the path that I did. Of course, I could be in a completely different scenario, in a completely different position. There's infinite possibilities. But you're not going to get to experience a handful of those possibilities if you stay static and you stay stuck. And you try to prove to yourself that you're good enough by chasing things outside of what is, you know, feasible for you at the particular point of your life that you're in. And that's why I was saying earlier, Jake, a lot of people your age are so depressed is because they chase these things, but they haven't earned the right to even get close to them yet because they are too scared to move forward. And they're not willing to get a job and learn and then maybe gravitate into entrepreneurship or go freelance or whatever it is, and then build and build and build from there. And then by the time they're 25, 30, which is still extremely young, then they've got those things. They want them now. They want to bypass the competition, as you said earlier, and have it now. And that's when they become depressed and lonely and anxious because they're looking at what they don't have. And what 18-year-old or 19-year-old has the right to be driving a Porsche and having a Rolex, unless you are the exception and not the rule? Billions of kids throughout generations in the future and now are going to miss out on those things. There's going to be a handful of them that have those things at such a young age, maybe because they were a Nepo baby or because they were given an insane opportunity. But those are the people that we are seeing day to day, every single day now. And the millions and billions of kids that will, grow up seeing those things and that are seeing them right now are the ones that's thinking, what's the point of my life? Like, why don't I have those things? It's like, because you need to move forward. You need to stop staying stuck and living in fear and lack and move forward and get a job that earns you a skill or multiple skills that gives you an opportunity and a pathway to get to that next level and climb the rungs and get through life. And, that ties into what is literally written in the Bible about multiple journeys of struggle and strife. And throughout mythology, we talk about the labors of Hercules and everything else and going
Yeah.
through those things, right? And the labors that Noah had to bear, right? And Jesus himself and Moses and all of these things, right? It's something that people just kind of completely ignore because they can't in the moment prove to themselves that it's reality. However, it's been written over 1500 years and passed down through generations about a way of living that gives you what you want and gives you purpose and meaning and moving through life in a way with some form of identity rather than feeling like a bit of a loner and a drifter. And when you take that and you put it into reality and you say, well, what am I doing? What am I actually focusing on? What am I moving towards in my life? If you are choosing to stay static out of fear and embarrassment and worry that people will just kind of see you as worthless because you aren't an entrepreneur and you aren't super successful at 19 years of age, which is a ridiculous thing to believe, but people do, then you're going to be deeply unhappy and deeply depressed if you continue to live in that mindset and that loop of proving to yourself that you are not worthy because you don't have those things. So I've said a lot there, but you said a lot there as well, and you gave such a profound perspective that I had to just bounce off of it and give my share of the feedback. And I think that is both of what we've said there is deeply true.
100%. Oh my goodness. This is a gem of an episode. It takes a lot of courage to. I love how you went into all of that as well. And I'm just gonna be blunt, like
Mm,
as men, regardless of your age, and especially in my generation at this age, we're constantly seeking, like, we want to create our own purpose. We want to feel like there's a reason that we're here. And when we don't have that, it feels like life is empty, hollow, and we're pointless. Like our whole
mm,
life is meaningless, and we're just in this constant search. I know I've been through this, you've been through this. We're in this constant like cycle of searching for some kind of meaning, some kind of purpose within ourselves, within others, and we attach. That's why we're so eager to attach our ambition to something, a car, a certain amount of money per month, a girl, whatever it may be, because we're so innately, inherently born hungry for this kind of purpose. And in the Bible, it talks about this too. There's a purpose that God has given to you. And in Proverbs, it writes that a man's purpose is like a deep well, but a man of understanding draws it out, right? It is the glory of kings to seek things out, to seek out the things of God. God has a purpose for you. And you're not going to find that purpose by trying to create your own and substituting it with, frankly, vanity. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're chasing that car, the car is cool. It's not going to fulfill you, right? The money, it's cool. It's amazing. You need it, but it's not going to fulfill you. And ultimately, when you die, that's not what you're going to be thinking about. You're not going to be thinking about your Lamborghini on your deathbed. You're going to be thinking about your children's graduation, right? You're going to be thinking about your wife. You're going to be thinking about your legacy and these things that we leave, honestly, in the pursuit of the things we think we want or the things we want other people to see that we have, because that will somehow prove our worth. But if you
Mm,
haven't established your worth in God first, then whatever you pull your worth from, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole at the bottom, because it's a God-sized hole in our heart. It's an infinite hole, right? We constantly need some kind of purpose to fill us as we evolve, as we grow older. There's a new purpose. There's a new purpose that transcends our lifetime. There's a legacy that transcends our lifetime that can be passed to our children, that we're carrying forth from the last generation. Whatever that is, God has that plan for you. And all you need to do is seek Him out. Um, there is no easy answer. There is no, it's simple, not easy. As with most things in life, you know how it is.
absolutely, man.
Simple, not
Absolutely.
easy. And pursuing God, we're the Bible, it says we're made in the image of God. We are made in the image of God. And to learn about ourselves, we don't go to anyone else or anything else or any other book or YouTube video. We go to God because we are His image, we are His reflection, right? And to know more about God is to know about yourself and your true purpose. And your purpose is not your occupation. It's not how much money you're making. It's so much more than that. And it's different for everyone. I'm not here to tell you what that is. But I'm saying that if you're stuck in life right now, or you feel like you're stuck in a dead end job, you are more than that. And there's so much more for you, even if you can't see it now. Um,
That's
and all it
awesome,
takes
man.
is to
I love that.
lock your door, like spend isolated time by yourself, seeking God, um, or honestly, just seeking yourself first, looking deep inside. Is this really all there is to life? Just start to question these little things. I'm not telling you to become Christian or whatever this is, right? I'm telling you the truth that there is more to life than just your occupation or your money. But you won't find that if you never question it and if you keep distracting yourself with trying to provide for yourself with social media, with entertainment, or with productivity. Oh my, that is such a big trap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the endless productivity cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how can I do
Golly.
more and less? And
Yeah.
it's funny, it's ironic because I used to coach people how to do that, but also to do it in a way that was aimed at an end goal rather than just aimed at nothing for the sake of growing a business. It's like, well, how does the business end? Are you looking for an exit? Are you looking for sustainability? Are you looking to hand it off to somebody? Are you looking to move away from it completely and start a family? But most people are just obsessed with growing it, scaling it, and making more money. And yeah, we that's a whole different topic for another time. But just in the end of this episode, Jake, I just want you to, if you can think about this because it's a bit of a left field question. But is there a verse from the Bible that you could use to kind of summarize the key talking points around purpose and fulfillment and vanity that you mentioned that you can give to the audience now, whether you're a Christian or not, whether you are open to the concept of God, whether you are completely switched off from it, but you've managed to make it this far, maybe there is something that you could learn. And yeah, Jake, if you could potentially share that with people, because I know you're on your YouTube channel, which I will put in the description for people to check out, that you're big on that. So yeah, over to you, my friend.
It's a great question. A verse that immediately comes to my mind, that has helped me get through the darkest moments of my life, um, is Jeremiah 29:11, which goes, this is from God's perspective. It is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and future." And God is speaking in reference to his people. Well, if you come to God and you surrender to him and you genuinely seek him, you fall under that category of people who have surrendered their lives to God, and who trust in his plan, not your own, right? We always feel this anxiety to make our own plan for the future, to have it all figured out because we don't know what's going to come. And truth be told, I don't know what the future holds, but if you trust in God, then you might not know what the future holds. You know who holds the future. The path illuminates as you walk it. It is written that God is a lamp to your feet. He's not a stadium light to your distant future. There's another verse that goes, walk by faith and not by sight, right? You see all the greatest men, regardless of whether they were Christian or not, had a crazy amount of faith in their vision, in what they believed in, and most of all, what they stood for and who they were. They did not back down, regardless of whatever ideology was pushed on them, right? They had a solid base in who they were, to walk by faith and not by sight, trusting that the path will illuminate it as you walk it. Think about a lamp, right? A lamp to your feet. You might not see your next 10 steps, but the more steps you take, the more steps you see, right? Am I making sense? Like you take one
Absolutely.
step, you can
Yeah.
see the next. And that's all you need, because you don't need to see the light at the end of your tunnel to know that there is one when you have God on your side. And you might not believe in any of this. You might think this is whack. Whatever you think of this, if you give it a try, maybe one day, you'll see what I'm talking about. That you might not need to know your complete future to understand that there can be a peace that surpasses understanding and a confidence that you can walk in despite the fact that you don't know what the heck is going to happen. And you can look at me, 18 years old, no idea what his life has been or no idea what he's talking about. But the words I speak are not my own. That's why Gary asked me to pull a verse from the Bible that's like thousands of years old. I'm not speaking my own words. And honestly, there's nothing new under the sun. And these principles, everything we speak about is not new. This has been discussed. These problems of trying to prove yourself has been here as long as humanity has been here, right? And the problems you face have been here as long as humanity has been here. And so, like, take a look at yourself, at these principles that we've talked about, um, and see how you can apply it into your life, because there really is, you might think your problems are premium, right? That you're the only one facing these things in the whole world and no one might understand you. But I'll tell you right now that many people have, and even more God does. So you don't have to rely on yourself to make things work if you rely on a higher power that is backing you, that wants to back you, that is reaching out to you. If you're seeing this right now, it's not an accident, right? Yeah, there's not much else to say. Love you.
That was awesome, man. That was awesome, Jake. Thank you for that, man. Before we wrap up, just let everybody know who's listening to this, or especially on my channel, who doesn't know you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, jake.tam, Tam with four M's. I'm sure it's linked in the description somewhere. You can text me, talk to me if you have any questions. On YouTube, it's Jake YuJune. Yeah, that's all there is to
That's
it.
it,
Not
man.
much.
Yeah, I'll link those all in the description. I'll link the link down below as well for my free guide on how to escape the proven loop. Jake, thank you very much, my friend. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that, and we are well on the way to having more episodes in the future. I hope about kind of continuing these topics and obviously learning more about your journey at such a young age and my journey, and going down the path of faith and business and self improvement and everything else. And yeah, I hope you guys listening to this and watching this enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, then put them down below. Until next time, speak to you soon.
Yes, sir.
There we go, man.